Welcome back, everybody, to your three-man booth. We are heading into the NFL playoffs wildcard weekend. We completed the regular season. I'm Dan Salem with Phil and Bud. And to recap on the year, we all finished with nearly the same win totals. Bud, you went 1-1 again. I think that was your season, the whole 17-17. I finished 1-0-1 last week, so I got 17 wins, but only 13 losses and 3 ties. And then, Phil, you got 18 wins. You went 0-2 last week. So 18 wins, but 15 losses, and I think 1 tie. So
it should have been 19 wins because the Eagles purposely screwed me, but that's
yeah,
all right.
You got one more win than us. I think my winning percentage is technically higher, but I'm going to give you the victory because it's the wins that count, not the percentage when we're betting money. So,
what did I win?
Congrats. You win some fireworks on screen.
Ooh, all right.
I can send you some LA COVID if you
Yeah, no, keep your kid.
Don't get sick, Dan. I texted you. Don't get sick.
No, I'm staying home. I'm doing my part. Not there to wear a mask on the show here, but
I feel like after every show we need to be like Bob Barker and be like, go get your pet sprayed and neutered and go get your COVID vaccine.
Yeah, I hopefully we won't get there. We'll keep the show going nonetheless. All right. There are 6 games for Wild Card Weekend, 2 more than usual. We're going to pick 1 game each. Phil, why don't you get us started with ATS picks for Wild Card Weekend?
Well, mine's simple. The Buccaneers are going to beat the crap out of Washington. I mean, do I have to say anything else? I mean, they're gonna destroy Washington. I don't care that Chase Young wants Tom Brady. Tom Brady's going to carve him up.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving up 8.5, but it's such a mismatch.
It doesn't even matter because Washington has no offense. We all saw that Sunday night. They can't move the ball against a shitty Eagles team. You think you're going to do that against Tampa? Yeah, I know how you beat Tampa is you throw the ball. But who are they throwing to? McLaurin? That's about it. So
yeah.
give me Tampa.
Solid pick. That's the gimme of the weekend.
I know. I'm not really going out on a limb here, but
keep the chalk riding. We'll tally up our totals. See who gets the most wins on the year after the playoffs, which are more difficult.
And by the way, I picked last, so I gave all you guys the opportunity to snag that game.
That's true. So, Bud, who do you got?
I'm taking Buffalo over Indianapolis, but laying 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5 or 8, either way.
Yeah. Buffalo put up 56 points against a really good Miami defense this weekend, and they are clicking on all cylinders. So, give me Buffalo, Kansas City AFC Championship game. Here we go.
I'm gonna hope on that one, and I'm taking one of the other easier picks. I'm gonna take the Saints. They are at home against a Bears team, which is almost as undeserving of a playoff spot as Washington. New Orleans is
lost and they got in.
Yeah. Well, and they're dropping 10. I mean, I don't know who's playing quarterback for them. They seem to flip-flop a lot. I think it's still Trubisky. I could see them keeping it close in the first half, but this is Drew Brees' opportunity to go out on top, and the Saints are going to be fired up, especially this first-round matchup. They just want the Packers for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and so – or I guess maybe they want Tom Brady too. It'll be one of these classic quarterback matchups, but the Saints are going to take care of the Bears.
Well, the Saints have to go through Brady and then go through Rodgers if they have, because they're going to have to play Brady if they win.
Yeah, well, that's even better then.
Right, I said to Phil earlier, could you imagine if Tom Brady makes the Super Bowl again? Ah, my God.
He's made it like every year of my life that I can remember.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Brees or Rodgers will knock him out. I mean, I'd like to say Russell Wilson's in the discussion. I think the Rams are kind of out of it because they're too injured, but I don't trust the Seahawks defense even with Jamal Adams. So
I agree.
Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Washington and the fact that the Eagles threw the game because they wanted a higher draft pick, and then that kicked the Giants out of the playoffs, which is probably pretty sweet for that franchise, even though the players weren't on board with it. Giants had a great win against the Cowboys. I guess that's all.
It was. And so I'm sitting there Sunday. And again, if I said, but if Evan Ingram can catch the GD ball, we would have had 9 or 10 wins this season. We wouldn't have to worry about this because yet again, another ball goes through Evan Ingram's hands. Dallas intercepts it, and essentially the game turned on that, right? Because the Giants were cruising. It was 20-9. And now all of a sudden it's 20-19 in a quarter and a half. It's we know there's no Barkley. We know they don't really have a true number one receiver. But it's incredible. So I said this before. The Giants had 12 interceptions all year between McCoy and Daniel Jones. 6 of them went through Ingram's hands. 6.
I want to ask you, because he's a young player, they keep giving him more opportunities. But if he's going to make mistakes like that consistently, they got to trade him, right? I mean, you can't have that guy as your number one tight end and him cause 6 turnovers. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll take him.
We'll take him. Yeah, okay.
But I mean, throughout the year, Bud was saying, Daniel Jones can't turn the ball over. We can't have interceptions. And you're 100% right. But when you're throwing dimes, literally, and I'm not saying that, because we call him Danny Dimes, but I mean, you're throwing rockets at the guy and it goes literally right through his hands. You got to catch the ball.
Well, I played tight end, and I remember not getting thrown the ball because of that happening to me a couple times. They stopped throwing it to me. They're not doing that with Ingram. So
no, because they have Slayton and they have Shepard and Tate. All good number 2 wide receivers, very good number 2 wide receivers. They don't have a number 1 threat, right? So you have to use the passing game. You have to.
Well, Shepard was out of
Shepard had a game. Shepard had a great game.
Yeah, and he's almost a 1.5. When Odell Beckham was on the team, he was just out of this world because
it was perfect. He was the slot receiver. It was perfect. It was a perfect role. And I jokingly said I wish Odell would come at a discount, because I think he would be so humbled if he ever found his way back to New York. I think he realized how good he actually had it. Man, that'd be great. I would love it personally as a fan. You'd have to think he'd be humble to be like, all right, I'm going to cut the BS. He can't play like that anymore.
Well, the other thing is he seemed to really like the spotlight, and
Who doesn't?
Well, a lot of players don't want to play in New York, and I think that's the problem the Jets have, is that they have this huge spotlight on them, and these players either can't handle it or they don't like it. And there's a few cities that are that way. I think the two New York teams, the Cowboys are like that. Trying to think of one other that's really quite to that level, but they have this media spotlight on them 24 hours a day. Cleveland doesn't have that.
No.
I mean, Cleveland, they forget Odell exists. Who's this guy at the bar? I don't know. You get out of there. Racist rant later.
I just think they need a number 1 receiver. And I don't know how they get one. I don't know if maybe Slayton takes another step next year, but I feel like that's one of their needs for next year.
Yeah, they shouldn't go after Beckham, but I agree that they.
No, I know. I'm just saying if he ended up finding his way back, because you have to trade for him, and you're not going to retrade again.
No, I didn't mean to discount the Browns fan base. They're a passionate group of football fans. I just mean that the media tension's significantly lower.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. So it's different for football. You're right. It's the 2 New York teams. I wouldn't even put LA in there because obviously for basketball and baseball, LA is a huge media outlet, but not for football though.
Well, I would tell you, you can disappear as a Dodgers player in LA. You can't disappear as a member of the Clippers or the Lakers.
No, of course.
So that's really
baseball. That's because they're 7 foot tall, Dan. I mean, let's be honest. If I was 7 foot tall, people would recognize me too.
That's a true statement. I recognize Blake Griffin all the time because he lives in the area. It's like he stands out like a sore thumb.
Look at Dan. Dan lives among the stars over there in Bel Air.
Bel Air. OJ lives next door.
Mm-hmm. Well, he did. They tore his house down, changed the number. I went for a walk, tried to find it. So Giants are picking what? 12, I think? 11. There's at least 3 or 4 number 1 wide receivers at the top of this draft. One of them should fall to the Giants. If they could even trade up a spot or 2 if they had to. But
I think I want them to go defensive pass rusher first, because they, as good as the defense played and as good as Leonard Williams played, and we saw them and all those other guys, there was a severe lack of pass rushing aside from the Cowboy game. Those last 4 games before that game, I don't even remember if they had a sack. I mean, Kyler Murray his jersey didn't get dirty in that game. Neither did Lamar Jackson.
So
Lamar Jackson, in all fairness, Phil, he's the last 3 or 4 weeks, he has played so far superior than everybody else in the league. I mean, he's the real reason they even made the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm just there was no pressure on him at all, and that's a problem. I think they need a.
That's Leonard Williams' MO. I mean, if he has another guy across from him, he's going to do great, and he'll have his good games. But when he plays a stronger offensive line, he kind of disappears. He doesn't get a sack. So, like, I always liked him. I thought he was a good player, but he's not going to get better unless they bring in somebody else. So he's going to be what you saw this year, which, like you said, against those better offensive lines, they didn't get any pressure. So,
yeah,
but he had 10 sacks this year, Dan. I think we're selling him a little short.
No, he had a good. I think he had a very good season. I think he proved himself. But he played well for the Jets too. It's easy to forget. He had that last year that was forgettable.
But yeah, I mean, overall, 6-10. I said before, they doubled their wins from last year. You went from 3-13 to 6-10. That's solid improvement without your all-star, franchise player who got hurt in week 2. So, I mean, the future's bright. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and it's probably better that they didn't make the playoffs because they're going to get that high draft pick now.
Yes. So as Bud and I were discussing before, part of me, I wasn't as pissed off that the Eagles did what they did to screw the Giants because they're not making a Super Bowl run. I mean, let's be honest. They're not winning the Super Bowl this year, even if they got in. It actually benefited them more to not make the playoffs because now they're 11, but you're a top 10 pick, right? Essentially, you need more pieces, and you're not there yet, right? I would rather. I say this now stupidly, but I would rather be where we are now than be in a playoff, get our asses kicked, have a higher draft pick, a harder schedule next year, and then it makes it that much harder. So
now,
because Washington first place quarterback.
Well, I would say the only exception would be if Barkley was going to be back for the playoffs, and
of course, but that's not going to happen. So they're not set up to win a championship this year. So even if they limped in, they're going to get ousted in the first round anyway.
Yeah, it
would have been fun to watch, but.
What did the Eagles gain by losing that football game? I was not completely clear. 3 spots?
3 spots.
Oh.
3.
That's a lot.
That's what I said.
See, I look at it the other way. I don't know.
I said the exact same thing in the podcast that I just did with Phil. I like as a person who has no rooting interest in that particular game.
That's a no-brainer, right?
It's a no-brainer, but more importantly, I feel like it's an embarrassment to the NFL that what happened on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's just they're in a tough spot. Like, it's the last game of the year. They don't have any reason to win, and they have a lot of reasons to lose.
The NFL flexed that game into this Sunday night game, and to get the fourth quarter that they got out of that game is embarrassing to the league. You had a coach and a team that openly tanked the fourth quarter in a 3-point game. In a 3-point game, you said, we're done. We're going to lose. We are going to try to lose this football game.
So if that game took place at 1:00 at the same time as Giants-Cowboys, they would have had no reason to tank because, I mean, they would have had the same reason to tank, but they wouldn't have known it was a guarantee, I suppose.
Nobody would have cared. The NFL could have flexed in the Arizona-LA game or, another game that was important to making the playoffs.
They should have flexed
the Buffalo-Miami game they could have put in. Like, it to me, like, I texted you guys, I texted Phil, I texted Justin, everybody who I could text, and I said, I cannot believe what is happening right now. I just can't. It's a 3-game, and when they went on it on 4th down, Phil and I we talked about it before. Like, the play calling wasn't even that good. Like, the play calling was set up so that you would not get it. It's embarrassing, and the Eagles should be embarrassed as an organization.
How, if you're a player, how do you play for that? How do you play for that coach next year? If you're a free agent, there's no way you're going to Philadelphia. No way.
This quote by their running back, Miles Sanders. He said, nobody liked the decision. They didn't know who was the person behind it. but everyone was confused. So I'm assuming it was the coach, but
Jason Kelsey, did you see the look on his face when he's sitting on the bench there? I mean, he looked
like he was ready to kill somebody.
I mean, yeah.
Do you blame him?
No.
As an offensive lineman, you get hit 100 times a game, and you're literally getting hit, and you're snapping the football, knowing that you have a quarterback that can't throw the ball, can't receive the snap, and has no opportunity for you to win the football game.
Yeah.
Why are you playing?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me.
No, and I mean, that was a terrible game to flex to Sunday night too. I mean, they had other players better.
Not to keep cutting you off, Dan. I apologize, but he comes out and he says, "Well, we wanted to give a look to the quarterback. What's his name?
Nate Sudfeld.
Oh,
which you'll never hear his name again. But he'll be a trivia question.
Nate Sudfeld has been in the league for 4 years. He was drafted in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Why do you need to give him a look? Let me fill you in. He sucks. He's not going to play. He's never going to play. He played a quarter because you were trying to lose, and you knew if you played him, you would lose.
Yeah.
And if they were losing heavier in the second quarter, they would have made the switch. But they were winning.
Okay. And that would have been fine.
They were winning, and then Washington scored the points.
Yeah. No, it's silly, and it's almost validates the fact that we know other teams haven't been tanking throughout the year. Like, you can make decisions, but
there's different kinds of tanking. There's different types. So if they play Nate Sudfeld from the first quarter on, no one would say a word. No one would say anything.
Well,
someone may have said something. Well, but no, not well, because you would be like, oh, the Eagles are 4-10. We understand. You don't want, if Jalen Hurts is your quarterback of the future, you don't want him playing in a meaningless game to get broke. Maybe he tears his ACL and then you're screwed because Carson Wentz is going bye-bye. He's out of there.
Okay, that's a valid point. It happened to Burrow earlier in the year.
He might be going up the turnpike to MetLife Stadium there if you're lucky.
Carson Wentz is a good player, but he can only do so much without any weapons. We saw that in Philadelphia this year. So he's not the
I agree. I find it very offensive as an NFL fan that you saw a team openly tank.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter of a not a meaningless football game, a game that actually had impact on how the outcome of the season is going to go. This team completely decided that they were not going to play. At the start of the game, they didn't even dress Wentz. I mean, and obviously we all know the backstory of that. I mean, that's one thing. They didn't dress Sanders, so they took out their starting running back, whatever. So you openly knew that they weren't trying to win from the get-go. And then to make the switch of the fourth quarter in a 3-point game when you had Washington was not moving the football. They were not playing well offensively. You could have won the football game, and you decided, I'm not going to win. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. Oh, crazy way to end the season, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm still not convinced the 3 spots is that big of a deal. If you're going from 9 to 1, then I get it. You're going from 9 to 6.
But if they want to trade up, it's much more easier to trade up from 6 than 9.
What are they going to trade up for? They're not picking a quarterback.
You know how many
but there's plenty of other players. You can get an offensive lineman, you can get a defensive end, you can get a wide receiver, and you can get a running. I mean, there are other positions at 6 that, as I said to you earlier, can change the outcome of a franchise.
Yeah.
You can still get a franchise player at 6.
Every top 10 pick should make a Pro Bowl. They don't, but they should. They're top 10 picks. So he should alter their franchise for the better in principle.
Well, the Jets are about to have a top 5 pick. How's that going to, what are they going to do, Dan? Now we can finally talk about it. Let me ask you this. I asked Bud this before. I don't know if they play Saturday or Sunday. Maybe it's Saturday. If Justin Fields goes out and beats the crap out of Alabama, just like he did to Clemson, do you want him at number 2?
I think he plays Monday, by the way.
It's national. Yeah, it's Monday. Sorry, you're right. But if he does what he did to Clemson to Alabama, does your thought process change?
It scares the crap out of me because I really don't want them to pick a quarterback at number 2 because up until last week, this guy was like, yeah, he's good, but we don't know how he'll pan out. Now, we say that about a lot of players, and then there's a few quarterbacks that are, quote, slam dunks. And I think that the term slam dunk can be expanded. Sam Darnold is a slam dunk NFL starting quarterback. He can be a good starting quarterback. He has shown that he has played like a good quarterback. He is not a backup from college. He's a starter from college. So I can say he's a slam dunk, right? They didn't say that about this kid. They said it about Trevor Lawrence. They didn't say it about anybody else. They said there's Lawrence and then there's 3 or 4 others that are decent. Now, he beat Lawrence on the field, sure. I just really question how good these college defenses are. Like, they're not.
Oh, I completely agree with you on that one.
I don't want them to like. I mean, if they hire a coach that loves this kid for his scheme, then go get him.
But here's the danger. Here's the danger. Let's say he does that. Let's say he beats Alabama, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting at number 2. Miami's sitting at number 3, and I don't think they're too thrilled with their quarterback right now.
Yeah, too. So I know. So I mean, I would trade back one spot and let him take him. But
would you?
That's what I said. I said the same thing. And Phil said, "Well, why would you want to do that?" I said, "Well, if you trade with Miami, you get 3, and you probably can get another. You can get another one of their first round draft picks for this year because they have 2.
Yeah.
Right. You trade with Miami. Miami gets Fields. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
The Jets get Smith, the wide receiver from Alabama. You keep Sam Darnold. You build the offense that way, and you still have 2 more first-round picks.
Yeah, and they could take one of the other quarterbacks later in the round. I'm not opposed to that.
Right, you can do that too.
Yeah. But why would Miami do that too? Why would Miami make that deal if they're convinced you're not taking them at 2? They'll just wait till 3 and keep their pick.
Because there are 4 or 5 other teams that want that pick.
Right. You think Atlanta doesn't want that pick?
Oh,
you think the Lions don't want that pick? Moving on from Matthew Stafford, there are teams that want that number 2 pick. So if Miami is sold on that, you trade with Miami, you give them that pick, and then you get their first round pick this year. You probably get a 3rd or a 2nd this year or next year. Yeah. The Jets have 9 draft picks this year and 9 draft picks next year. So you have draft capital. You have it. If you can add on to it, you're going to make your team even better.
Yeah, I want the head coaching decision quickly and first. I wrote that article the other day. They need to be the first team to hire a head coach, and then we can make some serious decisions here. Because,
well, as Buzz said, the last time the Jets did that, they hired Gase in 6 days, and that didn't seem to work out. They were first to the podium.
But everybody else hired coaches before them. He was like the last.
Yeah, but so Dan, you're not obviously in the New York market.
Right.
Joe Douglas was on the Michael Kay show today, and he said that it was more important to find the right coach and not the calendar. So they are not going to rush the hiring of this coach. They are going to find the right person and make sure that he's the right fit for the vision and the philosophy of the team, and then they're going to move forward from there. And then from there, that coach is going to have an impact and a decision-making process on whether or not Sam Darnold is the quarterback moving forward, which I agree with. I totally agree with that process.
I agree with that in principle. But aren't you hiring a coach because of their philosophy, not trying to find a coach that fits your team's philosophy, which doesn't exist after what we just watched? So, Arizona went and got Kingsbury because of Kingsbury's philosophy, and then Kingsbury drafted Murray to play his offense, and it's worked out well. I see the fact that a coach gets a quarterback that fits his system to be a very successful formula. Now, sometimes it works out. Sean Payton, Drew Brees kind of work together. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady kind of grew together. But you always have these tandems when you have these winning teams, right? I mean, Tomlin and Big Ben, these guys have stuck together for a long time. It's not coincidence because they're complementing each other. And if the Jets either need to hire someone that knows who they want to draft, or they need to hire someone that likes Darnold enough to make him a good player. But if you wait, all these better coaches are going to get taken. I mean, the Jets are the worst situation of the bunch. So
would you prefer we talked about this. Would you prefer to have a college coach or an NFL coach?
I think that NFL coordinators have a higher chance of success, but I would rather they hire a college coach over a former NFL head coach. I don't want them to hire someone that got fired or someone that's been on the bench for a couple seasons. I think that they did that and it failed miserably. I don't think they should do it again.
So I said to Phil, I said the only college coach that I would want them to get is Jim Harbaugh.
Why?
And only because my thought is that he has a history of taking a team that is bad and in an NFL system and transforming them into a winning franchise.
Yeah.
Taking a quarterback that nobody thought was good and turning him into a quarterback that has turned into Alex Smith, right? Now,
Yeah.
Alex Smith is not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I can tell you that Alex Smith's first 4 years versus his last 7 years or 8 years or however has been exponentially different because of Jim Harbaugh.
And I would say that Darnold could totally fit that Alex Smith mold. And that's a very, as long as he stays healthy.
100%.
Yeah.
If you build a defense and you build the pieces around him, could you not see a little bit of Alex Smith in Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that success. It's just, and I'm not opposed to Harbaugh. He just comes with all this baggage, and the Jets don't deal with baggage well.
Yeah. As I said to Phil, it's Jim Harbaugh wants his hand in the cookie jar, right?
Yeah.
He wants to pick the players. He wants to do all of this. He wants to do all that, which is why he got ousted out in San Francisco. That's the challenge. It's going to be a control battle, right? Who's in control? Is it the coach or is it the GM? And everything that Chris Johnson came out and said on Monday is that he's leaning towards changing the hierarchy of the team, where it's the owner, the GM, and then everybody else under the GM, which is how businesses are run, by the way.
That's how it should be. Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's how it translates. But if that's how it translates, that doesn't bode well for the Jim Harbaugh experiment, right? So, but I'm not sold on the Iowa State coach or the Northwestern coach. Yeah, they're young and they bring a little bit of life and excitement to the team. But coaching 17, 18, 19-year-olds is a lot different than coaching somebody who's been in the league for 10 years who feels like they don't need to listen to a 32-year-old, 33-year-old coach. It's not going to work.
The thing you could give to a college coach is that they're coaching a full team. They're managing that alma mater, right? So they definitely have the leadership experience. It's at a different level, but a lot of them have it more so than the coordinators would, which is why I'm often willing to give them a chance. Now, you don't really know. They do well or they crash and burn. There's no middle ground for these guys generally. But you see, I like some of these coordinators, but you see all too often they're not really ready to be head coaches, nor are they qualified. They're great at their side of the ball, but they're not a head coach. Whereas in college, these guys generally are more head coaches, and they're not as good on either side of the football. So they need to hire good coordinators. Now, I keep pushing for the Jets to hire first because they need their first pick of coordinators. They can't be waiting out there in March and not have their staff filled out. They're going to get the dregs.
But there are other teams right now that are in a better position than the Jets that are more what's the word I'm looking for? Enticing than the Jets. I mean, Chargers just opened. Houston's been open. I mean, those are teams that have franchise quarterbacks, right? I mean, there's arguably no doubt about that.
I think the Jets have the worst enticing situation of all 6 teams right now, which is why they should go after the guy they want and pay him as much as he wants right away before someone else hires them, because you're not going to get the good option. I mean, Jacksonville's got the number 1 pick. The Falcons still have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, even if Ryan's kind of trending out. Matthew Stafford's still a member of the Lions, even if he's trending out. So you're right. All these teams either have quarterbacks or the number 1 pick. The Jets got the number 2 pick and maybe
nothing.
Yeah.
And no wide receivers and no defense. And,
Well, the one thing that they have that is appealing to a certain type of coach is that they are a clean slate, open book. mold them to what you want, keep who you want, get rid of who you don't like. This is a piece of clay, making it into something. There's nothing there. So that's appealing to a certain type of player, certain type of coach. But not everybody.
And you have $77 million under the cap to spend next year. So, I mean, you have the flexibility and the availability to go out and get more players of higher quality. I mean, we've been talking about this for a really long time. The only reason why free agents go to the Jets is that they overpay for those free agents, right?
Yep.
Le'Veon Bell, Darrell Revis the second time, right? It's
Mosley,
CJ Mosley. And I hope CJ Mosley comes back and he makes an impact on the defense like he did for at least a game and a half of what he played last year. I'm hoping that that's what happens, but you're not going there to win football games, right? I mean, you're not going there with the mentality of this team is ready to compete for a championship, because they are not. They are not. You're going there because they're willing to pay you more than any other team in the league is willing to be able to do.
That's only true if they have a crappy coach. Players wanted to go to the Jets to play for Rex Ryan. And I think that if they hire the right person, players will want to play for that coach.
Will they hire Rex Ryan?
Hire him back.
I would not be opposed to that. That guy was fun.
I would love that as a non-Jet fan, as an outsider. I think that'd be awesome.
He was fun.
So you're going to need to hire, and not to keep cutting you off, I apologize. You're going to need to hire the right coach. And I said to Phil, I said, you have one chance of getting this right. You can't get this wrong, because in 2 years you're going to be looking for a new coach and another GM because he's fumbled this all around. You need to find the right person. You need to find the right person who can control all three facets of the game, who is not just a one-dimensional coach who says that he's a one-dimensional coach and he can't even do that right, like Adam Gase.
Okay, I agree. But real quick, before we run out of time, they already announced the schedules for next season. The Jets and the Giants should have easy schedules. Do you think that they actually are going to be easy schedules? Because the Jets did not have an easy schedule this year.
I've seen the Jets schedule. It's not going to be easy.
The Jets schedule is super hard.
They got to play the AFC and the NFC South, I think.
The NFC South, they got to play Tampa, New Orleans, the Bucs.
We're supposed to have the second easiest schedule in the league.
No,
they're not.
What about the Giants? How about the Giants?
I actually haven't even looked at it, to be quite honest with you, but I mean, technically they'll have a second place schedule if you want to do that. So I don't know. I forget who they match up with, but I'll let you know next week.
Okay. Yeah, no, I want the Jets schedule to be easy, but New England's got a lot of money in draft capital. Miami's got a lot of money in draft capital, and Buffalo's a Super Bowl.
Buffalo might be winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yeah. Are we really rooting for the Bills?
I am.
Okay. I'm rooting for the Rams until they lose this weekend.
Bills Mafia. I'm gonna next time I see Phil, I'm gonna body slam him through a table.
Dude, that basement's ripe for wrestling. So.
It is.
Oh, it's perfect. A steel chair to the head. It's the best.